Well, it's Wednesday, April the 1st, 2026. Good morning and welcome to your Perfect Day Starter. I'm Kaido Kikielu.
A beautiful Wednesday at that, and the first day of the month. As we say in these parts, Happy New Month. If you're watching from other parts of the country and you wonder, what is Happy New Month? Well, we have a lot of greetings for a lot of things in Nigeria. So welcome to your Perfect Morning Starter right here on Channels Television. I am Bukola Koga.
So don't be surprised, we celebrate everything. Happy Sunday, Happy New Month. When people die, we drink and celebrate. When they give birth, we drink and celebrate. When they marry, we celebrate everything. It's a culture. So we're just trying to carry along when it comes to our culture and tradition right here in Nigeria. Welcome to the program. I'm Jeffrey Uzama.
It's the, I won't call it the irony of things, you know. Sometimes we're the happiest people in that sense. Some other times you see what is happening. I wondered, how are you able to be happy and then go through these things and switch back? I think it's just one of the things, one of the strengths of Nigerians. Some say it may be a curse too, because some people then get to be maybe docile, get to just stay with status quo, do not move on. But let's tell you about the security situation, particularly after...
I'm so sorry. What made me laugh? I'm so sorry.
Oh dear.
Something just crossed my mind. It just came to my mind that perhaps God allowed us to be the way we are as Nigerians, because if we get angry the way they mislead us, most of the time we'll kill all our leaders. So somehow God just allows us to be able to manage through. I'm just giving an example. Where I'm drawing the analogy, for instance, men don't tend to remember things. Women remember literally everything, so they can run their piece of... So perhaps God designed that men should not remember. Men should not remember everything. Women remember everything, so that the man who doesn't have the ability to remember a lot of things, whenever the woman comes with that encyclopedia of the sins you've committed, and you don't have a defense, you just say, I'm sorry, and you just have to move on somehow. So perhaps that's what's playing out between the relationship between Nigerians and their leaders. If we get angry at everything they do, and we don't look for a way to buffer it, we'll kill everybody, and there will be no country.
I'm glad you put the right caveat.
Maybe men should lead the advocacy of demands for the rights of Nigerians then, since we remember everything. But I see very few women in the fight for justice. But in fairness and with due respect to all the female rights activists out there. Cardi.
Okay, this escalated really fast. Took a turn that I didn't expect it to take. But, you know, we're starting off with security. And, I mean, these things are intertwined, whichever way you want to look at it. Following that wicked attack in Plateau State on Palm Sunday and the subsequent attack in Kaduna, where guests were killed, we understand now that President Bola Tinubu has met with the service chiefs and the governor of Plateau State, Governor Caleb Mutfwang, who, by the way, did a state broadcast yesterday. Well, this information was put out, of course, by the Minister of Information himself, speaking about what is being done to at least ensure that these attacks do not happen again. He said they discussed the issues in a meeting, they assessed the situation, and they plan to implement decisive measures towards a lasting solution. So this was a briefing in Abuja, and he described the attack as a criminal act. As I said, and I think a lot of people have said it time and again, the meetings are good, right? The statements are good. The state broadcasts are good. But you know what is even better and what is best? Ensuring that these people are protected. You know, if it was a one-off attack, maybe something you see once in 5 years, or once in 3 years, or once in 2 years, then you maybe say, okay, this was an opportunistic attack, this has not been a hotbed. But if it's a kind of attack you have consistently, time and again, then it leaves much to be desired. It means that someone somewhere is dropping the ball. They've characterized it in different ways, but as I said earlier on, results is all that matters. Meetings are good, but more importantly, the results. So that's what we have so far. Have the attackers, the criminals, have they been arrested? That's a big question that's still in the air. What is going to be done to ensure that these people do not go through this again, not just in that area, but across? Now that question is also in the air, guys.
Well, this sounds to me like business as usual. Quoting from that statement by the Minister of Information, he says the Nigerian Armed Forces have continued to carry out clearance operations and intelligence-led missions across vulnerable communities. Note that, across vulnerable communities. He goes on to say in another paragraph, reinforced surveillance and troop deployment have also been implemented in high-risk areas, supported by joint military police patrols and strengthened rapid response mechanisms. So if intelligence is being carried out in those vulnerable communities, if indeed reinforced surveillance and troop deployments have been taken to high-risk areas, then we should see arrests. Then we should be on the trail of those who perpetrated these attacks. Some reports are citing the arrest of one person involved in that attack on that community in Jos North Local Government, Anguwan Rukuba, 2 days ago. If indeed that arrest has been made and the person has been debriefed, he should lead, to other attackers. The security agents should now be on their trail for arrest and, of course, prosecution, such that this impunity that has shaped the constant attacks on Jos in the past decade will not continue. Otherwise, this looks like another round of rhetoric, and nothing may be done until we'll hear about another attack in Plateau State.
Well, away from that, let's talk about the issue of party defections, possible signaling party defections. We know that Bala Mohammed, for instance, is saying that he's not going to run for a second time, by the way. So I know that the governor, not the governor, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Tuga, has also resigned to pursue his ambition. But Governor Mohammed of Bauchi State has indicated that the African Democratic Congress is his preferred political destination, fueling speculation about the potential departure from the crisis-plagued PDP. As the country's opposition landscape begins to shift ahead of 2027, Mohammed made a declaration on Tuesday in Bauchi after meeting at Ramad House with ADC delegation led by former Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Babacha Lawal. Maybe we'll take a listen to some of his comments.
Regarding the reconciliation, I have done everything I could. I met the APC, even at the national level. I met the chairman of the APC because as a leader, I must open my flanks. And I even went to see Mr. President 3 times so that he will engender the reconciliation. Because we have somebody called Wiki that is being used to destroy us. And in fact, he is causing so much disaffection. And the president was amenable to reconciliation. But by the time I came, I decided to even see Wiki himself in his house. I swallowed my ego and met him. But what he told me was, he is already a conqueror. He has conquered us. He's taken all the position of the PDP. And what I was thinking, that the convention will not hold and will discontinue our litigations so that we can come to negotiation. But neither the presidency, Wiki or anybody called me. They went ahead with their ill-conceived convention. And as it is, anywhere you are, either you are on Wiki's side or you are on my side, you run the risk of winning election and losing it in the court. Because even those caretaker committee that midwifed the convention, they have been discountenanced by the competent court of law, that is the Court of Appeal. And in our own case, our convention has been set aside. So we are not novices, we are not arrogant, we are law-abiding, we believe in the rule of law, and that's why we have to find space for our people. Thank you.
People may want to know why ADC and not.
Well, the governor of Bauchi State, Bala Mohammed, confirming talks with the African Democratic Congress and also revealing that details are being fine-tuned to see the successful negotiations and, of course, exit from the PDP to the ADC. Of course, he also confirmed, talks held with the Minister of the FCT days back about negotiations for reconciliation. And if that, soundbite had gone further, he went further to also say that he swallowed his pride and visited the Minister of the FCT, to further negotiations. But the Minister of the FCT said in what seemed like a boast that he has conquered the PDP. And of course, the elective positions would have to be retained if indeed any negotiations can come through. And Jeffrey, you know, I'm quite happy that we were able to get this perspective from the governor of Bauchi State, because this formed part of our discussions yesterday. And for those who would say that, you know, there's some angst against the Minister of the FCT over his style of politicking, it was a good thing, you know, that we reflected that indeed he initiated negotiations with the governor of Bauchi State. But what we didn't know was, you know, the narrative from the governor of Bauchi State. And, you know, we gave him some flack that, you know, probably he made effort. But we have heard from the governor of Bauchi State what his own side to the story looks like now. And so, you know, we can go further to say that the negotiations fell flat in the face right from the onset, and there were no hopes of reconciliation. Because how can the Turaki-led PDP possibly work with Minister Nyesom Wike, of course, following the allegations by the governor of Oyo State, Seyi Makinde, that he heard him say, he told him personally that he would hold the PDP for Mr. President. And a lot of his actions have confirmed that, even though he has denied that publicly. Jeffrey, I'm sure you have quite a lot to say as far as this revelation is concerned.
I have not. We already know how this will play out. The PDP is now out of the woods, even with the National Convention. I know before they even went to a battle convention, Nyesom Wike had given certain conditions like no micro-zoning or presidential ticket. Of course, that's for a selfish reason. We know those selfish reasons. Some conduct of some I think that was a LGA Congress, fresh congresses in Ebonyi and Anambra, to adopt the Calabar South-South Congress and all of that. So everybody is trying to grandstand based on what the backing of the law is for them. But as Bala Mohammed has said, the truth is that the PDP is now out of the woods. The PDP at the very best, I stand to be corrected, but I'm almost certain, I'm sure of what I'm saying. But politics, you leave room for, you know, possibilities. I'm almost certain that in 2027, PDP is not going to be a contender in this election. It's just going to be a participant because of all the fights that they are fighting and who wants to be what. So some are supporting the president, some want to be proper opposition. It's just a mess. Guys.
Well, watch that space. You know, after Alhaji Kwankwaso hosted Mr. Peter Obi and Governor Seyi Makinde in Kano State, you know, my prediction was that we're going to see a lot of movements in that direction.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so we've seen Governor Bala Mohammed move there now.
I'm telling you, what me as an observer, just like all of us as observers of politics, I'm not looking at the PDP. I don't take anything serious anymore with the PDP. I'm just being honest. In terms of contending for presidential election, they may be win other parties. They may brag that they were the ones that won Gwagwalada. Presidential election is a different kettle of fish. I'm looking at ADC versus APC right now as I sit here. Maybe a week after, a month, 10 months after, it may change. But right now, I don't waste my time with the PDP.
I mean, looking at the numbers, the PDP lost about 12 lawmakers yesterday in the National Assembly, defected to different parties. The APC received 14. ADC received...
PDP did not receive any.
Of course.
No,
that's the numbers.
Was from PDP to other
that's what the numbers are saying.
Take them serious anymore.
The ADC received about 8, but the PDP lost.
APP received 1.
APP received 1. Labour Party even received, interestingly, in Benue State. So the numbers speak to that, but clearly you see that there's still a lot of movement to ensure that the PDP is still able to stay relevant. But it's very tricky to have played that kind of politics with the PDP, do all that you've done to the PDP. And it's not just the recent one. It has started, you know, pre-2015, right? The PDP has gone through excessive abuse, you know, time and again. From the, no, it's true.
It's a molestation.
So it's not something that started last 2 years or pre-2023.
Emotional abuse.
Pre-2015. So what we're seeing now is a result of all of that. So the chicken, this is harvest time in that sense.
I think what they could have done is to manage a disruptor like Nyesom Wike. This is what he thrives and he likes disruptive moves. He's been involved in literally every form of crisis in the PDP, from Ali Modu Sheriff down to Uche Secondos. He literally brought, Uche was the chairman of PDP in Rivers State. Uche Secondos then kicked that one out. Then EHRU came himself and Otom and all of that. Then they kicked that one out. Then Damagun, and then now, what's his name? Mohammed Abdurrahman. So they should have been able to study the man.
Yeah.
For me, where they missed it, where PDP missed it, is internal discipline. Just dismiss everybody who is anti-party.
But Jeffrey, how do you manage a man that has resources in terms of finances, who has the backing of the state in terms of security, who has the backing allegedly of the commission, the Independent National Electoral Commission, who has the backing allegedly of the judiciary? How do you fight such a man?
The game is the game. Let me use this word.
He has now been crowned the national leader of the People's Democratic Party, even though some argue that it's not elective, that it's probably self-styled.
Yeah. Do you know?
But do you also know that there were other, strong men, supposedly of the PDP, at that national convention in Abuja, the former Senate President, Senator Bukola Saraki. There was also the former National Caretaker Committee Chairman of the PDP, former Governor of Kaduna State, Hamid Bakarfi. So how come, those strong men of the PDP were not able to, bring their influence to bear to manage the crisis of the PDP, even though allegedly, spearheaded by the Minister of the FCT? Those are the questions that we should be asking, Jeffrey.
There's a reason why they called Bola Tinubu the Jagaban. Do you know why? He made a good move, giving Wike and bringing Wike into his government and giving him power. That was a game changer.
Well, of course, he got the Jagaban way before that.
I'm just consolidating the Jagaban state.
Who knows? Maybe the end of
because I can
PDP
guarantee you
would be the Turaki-led group.
Let me tell you.
I
mean, guys.
Yes.
I mean, don't finish the food for breakfast right now. There's still a lot more. There's still a lot more.
I can guarantee you, if Nyesom Wike, the minister, was not a minister, he won't be able to pull this influence. It's as simple as it is.
Naturally.
So that's why I give it to the president.
Hey, you never know some of these things. But just before we wind down on this bit, you may have seen purported resignation of the Minister of Power, which is said to have been addressed to the president through the office of the SGF. Well, the office of the Minister of Power, Mr. Adelabu Adebayo, have said that this is actually fake, that the minister has not resigned. So let me reiterate again that in case you have seen that letter, a purported resignation letter by the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, saying that he's resigning and all to run for the governor of your state. Well, his office says that that is not true. All right. So there you have it. I don't know if this would make people feel better or otherwise.
I don't know what you mean by feel better.
I mean, for a lot of people say, oh, we're going to miss the Minister of Power. Oh, it's the Minister of Power is going to run for governor. Can you stay? And,
are you sure you're going to miss the Minister of Power?
And for some other people, when they heard that he didn't resign, they went, oh, ouch, I thought he resigned, and also he can pursue.
Why do I smell sarcasm all over?
No, I'm only referring to what a lot of people have been saying.
What? A lot of people,
Some people were sad when they heard about the resignation. And some people also are sad when they heard that the resignation didn't happen. And that's life for you. You cannot control how people feel.
Okay, yeah, so...
I can practically draw out the sarcasm.
The sadness in this...
I have no words for you guys. You just keep going. Thank you.
So that is...
Thank you for your time.
Basically to block that. The question some have asked is, did he resign and it was rejected? Or did he even resign in the first place? But all that is in the realm of speculation. This is what we can confirm from the office of the minister.
All right.
At the end of the day, what exactly? Anyway, we know that we're going to discuss this extensively, by the way, that the Senate, in record time as well, has actually approved, the Senate passed a 68.3 trillion budget for the 2026 fiscal year, approving the increase from the initial 58 trillion proposed by the president. They said the upward revision of over 9 trillion followed a fresh request by the president to accommodate legacy commitments, particularly the transportation and health sectors, as well as additional provisions, including funding for the judiciary. The approval came, the Senate adopted in a joint report of the National Assembly 2026 appropriation bill. We also know that the Senate also approved the borrowings that the president sought for, $6 billion. And Nigerians are super angry that the Senate is just approving literally everything. Well, what do you expect? They're in the majority. This is the power of majority. But we're going to break that down on the show today.
Jeffrey, so hold your horses.
No.
We'll take a moment now. And when we return, it'll be time to look at what the papers are saying about all of these big stories and more. So stay with the Morning Brief. We'll be right back.
Right, let's get into the front pages. We have joining us Mr. Ayo Akeria, who is a member Nigerian Guild of Editors. Joins us live from our Abuja studio. Mr. Akeria, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, good morning, Kayode. Good morning, Bukola, Geoffrey. It's a pleasure.
Well, let's start off with the Vanguard newspaper, Mr. Akeria. Vanguard leads with just killings. Tinubu, Mutfwang, NBA vow justice. Plateau won't bow to terror, Mutfwang declares, confirms 28 killed in gunman attack on Angwan Rukuba. Enough is enough. Atiku, Obi, Kwankwaso demand action. Now you have the NBA in the fray. Because this is primarily also about justice. Yes, security, but there's the justice bit of it. Mr. Akeria, page 9 read. Is this enough for you?
Well, I sit here this morning as a very, very angry Nigerian citizen. The impacted area, that is Angwa Rukuba in Jos, is a place that I visit. I have friends there, so I visit there every time. I know the place. It's always very, very busy in the evenings. And so when the report broke on the 29th, Sunday evening, Palm Sunday, I was shocked because that is a heavily Christian-dominated area in Jos North local government. It is a place that has never witnessed any attack before. But what is intriguing, what is shocking here is that a week or 2 weeks before this attack, a video trended, you know, it was in the social media, it was everywhere, that where the Igbo traders are, the shops, it's a long stretch of shops, where one young man who was speaking Hausa language was threatening that once they broke the fast, that they were going to launch a very bloody attack on Angwa Rukuba area and the surrounding environment. Nobody took that seriously. I was surprised that with that kind of video, somebody putting a face to threatening the state, threatening to kill people, nobody took any steps. And now it happened on the 29th. As at yesterday, more than 30 are already dead. A woman, she died yesterday at Jos University Teaching Hospital. So the figures are rising. What baffles me this morning, as it would with any Nigerian that is concerned, because this is our country, is that we issue statements. The government will issue statements. Governor Mutfwang is issuing statements. The president is issuing statements. How many statements will the authorities issue when Nigerians are being slaughtered? Right, whether in their homes or they even come out to, a man said he came to buy something to feed his children who will be going to school the next day. And then people were just killed the way they were killed. A woman, the video is also trending, the only son was killed and he held the body of the son and she will not let go. Very gory sight. People were macheted, were shot. And now there's reactions. We have arrested the young man. How do you arrest that same individual who had threatened before now? He was not arrested before the attack. You are arresting him now. And I'm even surprised that the police commissioner in Plateau State, Basi Ewan, who was with the governor when he visited the attack scene, could not even mount roadblocks, whether, you know, entering the place and exiting the place. And where are police detectives? Where is the DSS? So when people say Nigeria is a failing state, I really wonder. If you look at the global terrorism index, Nigeria is ranking 4th in the world as a terror-impacted country. So what are we doing to address this negative global rating on what's happening in our country? It is sad. I think the political class is just so concerned about 2027, how they can win elections, how people are defecting to the ruling APC. It is sad. And I think the president needs to sit up. It is not about garnering governors, garnering people to come to the APC and all of that. For the ADC, I just see all of them as the same. The faces you see across the political parties are familiar faces. These are individuals who have contributed to the ruinous state of the Nigerian state. And it is sad this morning. I feel very, very angry and sad. Because as a journalist, we report the news. The headlines this morning, almost all the papers reported it. And the killings will continue. So the empathy, the value for life in Nigeria is really not there anymore. We have individuals who are parading AK-47 rifles, assault rifles everywhere in this country. And they are left, well, I won't say that the government is not addressing it. Our troops are trying, the security forces are trying, but I just think that there's something wrong somewhere that we are not able to address this problem. It is really, really sickening, and for Nigeria to become almost like a mockery in the Committee of Nations. When you introduce yourself as a Nigerian, people no longer take us seriously. It is really sad this morning, Kayode, Bukola, and Jeffrey. It's sad.
Indeed, and we also talked about how we're able to, transit in and out of those emotions. 1 minute we're expressing sadness and the other we're expressing joy, but we hope that we're not too removed from the feelings of those who are actually in the throes of the attacks, because this morning is another morning of sadness and agony for them. But we hope that we get out of this experience someday soon. Let's head to The Guardian now, which of course takes a departure from happenings in Plateau State for its big story. The Guardian reports the 2026 budget. NAS OK's 68.3 trillion naira budget shifts burden of funding execution to federal government. And so it brings the new appropriation figure to 68.3 trillion naira. When you see the borrowing spree of this administration, does it give you more confidence, about more funds allocated to critical sectors of the economy, or are your, reasonings to the contrary, Mr. Akeria?
Well, for me, I do not think borrowing is a bad idea. Where the challenge is what do we use these monies for? Because if you look at, if you want to juxtapose the yearly budget, the implementation of the budget with developments on the ground, whether it's in the education sector, it's in security, it's in health, it's on roads and all of the electricity, which can power industries and create employment, then that is where I see the challenge. Now, another $6 billion is being approved by the National Assembly for this government that has told everyone that they are making so much money. The states are having much money. So why are we still borrowing if Nigeria is making so much money? With the American, Israel, and Iran war, that has shut down the Strait of Hormuz in the Middle East. Nigeria is making more money. More crude is given to Dangote, so we are refining more. Dangote is possibly exporting refined products to other countries. So where is all this money? The projected amount per barrel for the current budget is about, I think, $65. Now, a barrel of oil is, the Brent crude, which is the Nigerian standard, is over $100 per barrel. So much money has come in. In the days of former President Olusegun Obasanjo, when Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala was finance minister, we have the excess crude savings account, because the budget, if the budget puts the figure per barrel at, let's say, $60 per barrel, and they are now selling at $100, we are saving $40. Under President Obasanjo, we were saving that amount for the rainy day. I think at some point, governors moved to say the money should be shared. So now this government is making so much money. I would think that the excess money that is being made should be deployed to building quality infrastructure for this country, address insecurity effectively. But if the military lacks equipment, buy more equipment for the military, and ensure that even our soldiers on the front line, our troops on the front line, get properly remunerated, including the DSS, the police, the civil defense, and all of that. Get properly paid. I'm not the officers that sit in the offices with their pot bellies, and for me, they don't really get much done. The men and women, the troops in the front line who are putting their lives on the line, they should get more, whether in terms of physical remuneration and equipment to take down these terrorists. So for me, it's not about borrowing. What the money is being used for is where the challenge is. The borrowings under this administration, honestly, it is worrisome. I think I looked at one report this morning. Nigeria is grossing about 115 trillion in debt. It is a huge sum of money that we are owing, whether creditor nations, the Bretton Woods, the World Bank, the IMF, the Chinese. We are owing almost everybody, yet Nigeria is one of the richest countries in Africa. So I do not know, reconciling our wealthy status with our poverty level in terms of how much we owe other nations, that becomes something for a different debate. But honestly, there's work to be done, and I think this government needs to do more for the Nigerian people.
Mr. Karaga, let's get to New Telegraph newspaper, and the stories, I think, way above the nameplate is where I want to focus on, because I think you've commented on the foreign debt. We also have our local debt. I think that's even higher than the foreign debt. When you look at what we have in T-bills and bonds issuance and all of that, although that is routine and repetitive and is way more structured, besides these are direct loans for the foreign ones. But if you look at the story just top there, PMS crisis, marketers flood Lagos jetties with 286.7 billion naira worth of product. Pump price crashes marginally. So the question people always ask, how come these imported products, sometimes they argue that it's way cheaper than what we get from Dangote refinery, so we may have to ask question of quality of product itself. But what do you make of this story?
Well, it's interesting. Nigerians are suffering. I'm one of them. Driving here this morning, I drove with, each time I'm driving, I keep looking at my fuel gauge. It's going down. So we spend a lot of money buy fuel now. It is 1,300 naira for a liter. You know, so that is worrisome. If you juxtapose that against the national minimum wage, which the government still says is 70,000 naira or so. So Nigerians are poor. We have multi-dimensional poverty across board. The middle class has become completely eclipsed. It has been eliminated. Now we have the novo richie. You are either up there or just down there. So the purpose of government for the security and welfare of citizens. The welfare of Nigerians for now, it is nothing to speak about. It means that there should be more policy implementation to alleviate the suffering of Nigerians. So, well, it is good if we have more imported fuel coming in. We want to see the prices come down immediately, but particularly at, the pump prices. They should come down immediately. What we see in this country is that once prices go up, it's difficult to come down. Even when the conditions that initially gave rise to the increase in prices has disappeared. You still see Shylock traders, people, capitalists who want to cash in on the situation. So maybe from this morning till evening, we want to see the prices coming down significantly so that at least Nigerians can have a breather.
Incidentally, the president had said, let the poor breathe, right, when he came to power. So that breather is very much needed right now, Mr. Keria. This Nigeria is next also leads with the fresh $6 billion loan, which says fuels concerns over rising debt. And I should say there's also rising taxes, or at least increased tax coverage, right? And for Nigerians, a lot of people were racing for the deadline, which was yesterday. But you see, the riders' budget rises to 68.3 trillion as NAS rolls over, extended 2025 as well, 7.7 trillion obligations. Plenary adjourned to April the 21st. That's exactly 20 days from now. And opposition slams approval, warns of oversight. And we've talked about this, and we'll still have a proper breakdown on the show today. But I just should mention this. I wonder what you make of it. El Rufai drops case against Abuja magistrate in 1 billion naira rights suit. So He was also arraigned yesterday by the ICPC. Prior to that, he lost his mother. Now we saw government officials, I mean, the vice president, we saw the APC chair visiting him. How do you see all of this playing out, Mr. Carrier? Because he's with the ADC, as some say, has he been wooed to the APC? But how do you see the APC swinging this, the government? I'm talking about the relationship with Nasir El-Rufai, of course.
Well, the former governor of Kaduna State, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, is having a big bite of what the state can offer. At some point, he was on the table dining with these same individuals until they came after him. I think he has learned his lessons. He's been out of prison. He's been in and out of prisons. Lost his mother while he's in detention. He was released, on compassionate ground to go bury his mother. Now he's back facing the charges. It simply shows that, well, first and foremost, nobody's above the law. But again, when you say nobody's above the law, who are those being targeted? Nigerians are also under the impression that possibly El-Rufai is being targeted because he is opposing President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration. Yes, he is the one that has created the environment for him to... I'm just choosing my words this morning now because at some point El-Rufai was to be a minister under this administration. He offered himself, he campaigned for the president. He gave all the reasons why the president should be elected. While he was governor of Kaduna State, he has gone down in history as the first governor in the country to moot the idea of a Muslim ticket. His deputy was a Muslim, and so he brought that to the national level. And then today we have a Muslim ticket. The president is a Muslim, the vice president is a Muslim. So all of these, they tinkered with them. And then the rest of the citizens are just like onlookers. And so he's holding the shorter end of the stick now. I hope it's just a lesson to all that. Yeah, but with regards to the National Assembly passing budgets, and not doing proper scrutiny, I think that the 10th Assembly that we have now, I just hope, according to the English philosopher Edward Cleaver, the other part of the problem or part of the solution. I want this National Assembly to stop the cross-carpeting of politicians, moving from one political party to the other. Many Nigerians fought hard to enthrone this democracy, fought very, very hard. Civil society organizations, journalists, lawyers, people died to ensure that Nigeria has democracy today. But what the ruling elite, the political class is doing now, that is not the flavor of democracy that we wanted. How can politicians, when it suits them, they stoke crisis in their party, and then they give that same reason as why they are defecting to other parties. So there should be a law in the National Assembly which must be immediate to safeguard and protect our democracy, to ensure that whether there's crisis in your party or not, parties should be built and founded on ideology. You cannot leave your party. You have to stay there. That way, I'm sure that the issue of the ruling elite staying back in their party to resolve their crisis, that the institution of party politics will then become strengthened. But once that is not addressed, we can't have stabilization in our political process. It's a warring process in our democracy. So all of these issues are the problems created by the ruling elites and the political class, and they just have to solve it. Because Nigerians are no longer fools. They are watching very closely. 2027 is right at the door. And I'm just hoping that Nigerians have become sufficiently conscientized, exposed to the realities of what is confronting them, that I also consider as existential issues.
There you go. This, of course, will still form a major part of the conversations on the program today. But it's important to note that everyone's role right now will be talked about. And the big question, as you said, is will they refer to you as part of the solutions or part of the problems that Nigeria experienced? Still a couple more stories on the front page of this Nigeria. Just JAMB warning candidates to beware of WhatsApp score upgrade scams. I mean, maybe we're old school, but what does that even mean, right?
I don't understand myself.
WhatsApp score upgrade scams. But it's important to reiterate. I mean, gone are those days. I mean, WhatsApp was not a thing when we were writing JAM. So I'm worried, who is going to be offering you score upgrade in JAM on WhatsApp, and you'll fall for it? It's not like software upgrade. It's the work that you did in JAM. Mr. Carrier.
No, in Nigeria, anything happens. You know, technology is supposed to be used to, you know, to elevate the quality of life and the standard of living. But you see some individuals in society also taking advantage of technology, using it in the negative. So perhaps this is just one of it. I'm hearing it for the first time. It's a bit strange. WhatsApp, you use it to upgrade JAM scores. I know of the smart glasses. The Gen Zs, they are using all kinds of technology to bypass processes. The smart glasses, you wear it, somebody somewhere, you know, can then be speaking to you, and then you can just hear with your ears, and then maybe giving you answers to the questions that you are supposed to be answering, and all kinds of things. But I think JAM knows better. The JAM management must have receive intelligence that this is what is playing out in the public domain. Maybe there are some smart individuals out there who are promising JAM candidates that they can use WhatsApp technology to upgrade their scores. So this is just like it's a precautionary measure warning potential JAMbites not to fall for that kind of you know, trap. So it is a preemptive measure, and I think that those who are writing JAM will take cognizance of that. It's also part of the gamut of the Nigerian system where people want to cut corners, and eventually these individuals will also become leaders tomorrow. So the entire road system is a circus. We are just dancing around the circus. So individuals who are caught perpetrating this kind of crime must be brought to justice and dealt with ruthlessly to serve as a deterrent to others, and to strengthen our institutions and safeguard society from fraudulent practices.
Someone said, Mr. Carrier, that, you know, this is the new school. For old school people, they may not understand these things. Or what is wrong is wrong. It's important to reiterate that. I know we've come from a time where, you know, JAM had controversy around the result last year. So many people are falling for it as a result of what happened. They're saying, well, we can help you just get a higher score based off what happened last year. But Mr. Igor Carrier, we have to thank you so much for your time. This is still a time that Nigerians are going through a lot, but I talk of those in Plateau State with security, or everyday Nigerians trying to buy petrol. And that's exactly where we're going to next. So, Mr. Carrier, thank you once again. I wish you the best.
It's always a pleasure, Cardi. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, we'll take a moment now, and when we return, see all of those talking points, pain points. That's where we're headed to right now. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. So let's continue with part 2 of where we started off from this morning, when we're looking expansively at the implications of the alignments and political realignments that we've been seeing shaping the coming 2027 general elections. Of course, the big one being the planned defection of the governor of Bauchi State to the ADC. And joining us on this one is a former National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party and currently a member of the African Democratic Congress. Mr. Kola Ologbondiyan joins us from our Abuja studio this morning. And you're welcome to the program. It's good to see you, sir.
Thank you very much, Bukola. Good morning and Happy New Year to you in March. Yeah. Or in April.
You know, we already said that in Nigeria we have a word for every greeting, or a greeting for every occasion. So it's good to see you. Happy New Month.
I will add Happy New I want to add happy new month to it.
So it's unfamiliar terrain introducing you as a member of the ADC. We've always known you to be a PDP person. And so, first of all, it's curious that your exit from the PDP was unceremonious, maybe quiet. Perhaps you want to explain that to us. And is it true that since the defection of the former governor of Kano State and leader of the Kwankwasia movement, that the membership of the ADC has seen a surge?
Okay, thank you very much, Bukola. The moment that the People's Democratic Party was reduced to a battleground where eminent Nigerians were being flogged inside the hollow hall of the National Executive Committee at the Wadata Plaza, and in furtherance to that, the moment I began to read disclaimers of eminent Nigerians on the pages on the pages of newspapers and on the social media, I felt I was done, and I didn't want to bring myself to such a disrepute. And on account of that, I withdrew my membership of the People's Democratic Party, and I made it very, very public. So, but because if you permit me, I wouldn't want to go into any forms of revisionism in the People's Democratic Party. I think, having withdrawn my membership, I think I'm just okay. Now, talking about the movement to the African Democratic Congress, well, let me say that it's a desire to build an alternate political party where those who are not interested in using the People's Democratic Party to further the governance of President Tinubu believe that let's leave this platform because this platform is going to be used for Tinubu. So let's go and find a space, another environment. And like I've said repeatedly, even we must make the impact that goes to the ordinary Nigerian out there the first design and the first desire. What if we are introducing the policy? How does it affect Nigerians? I think that is one thing that I have noticed in the African Democratic Congress. Let us pursue policies. Let us pursue policies that will create a semblance, a form of egalitarianism. When we talk about ideology, ADC is not focused on the ideological trends of the Western world. ADC is focusing on the ideological trend or what affects Nigerians. Let me give you a practical example here. And I remember it was on this platform when the Asiwaju Tinubu's government was coming up with a subsidy regime. And I remember I came here. You invited me here, and I was there. I said, look, this subsidy regime should not be total. I said, I am not opposed to the subsidy, but I believe that subsidy should be a form of a government, a form of a system that can be done in gradual phasing. Oh, but they said no, it cannot be done in gradual phasing. It has to be done in totality. It has to be taken off. I said, look, what you want to do as a government is that you are now dipping your hands into the pockets of the ordinary Nigerians, taking their little incomes that are available and now giving it to the governors who might not even use it in the essence of the people. So first and foremost is the citizen first for the ADC. Beyond that, like I said earlier, we are thinking of an egalitarian society in which we have social democracy, but with concern to the market. What I mean is this: the government of ADC will not seize the market forces and run away with it. No, we will recognize it, but in doing that, what's the impact on the public? What is the impact on Nigerians? And we talk about security. Foremost, this is personal to me. I believe that Nigeria has not defined the war they are fighting. What is causing this insecurity? And as the National Public Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, I often took this before the Buhari's government, that we need to define the war that we are fighting. Are we being invaded by through external aggression? Is it internal conflict within our region? We talk about banditry, we talk about terrorism. Who are those behind this? We haven't defined that. I think the ADC has a program that will be definite about the war that we are fighting. My heart and the heart of ADC, I can say this, goes to the people of Angwan Rukuba in Plateau State, as well as the Kagako people. But I think that paying lip services to death that are running into hundreds, and we say, oh no, we have directed the military, we have directed the security agencies, we have done this, we have done that. I think what we need to do goes beyond that. I think we need to go deeper, and I think ADC is working on that. So I think the biggest problem we have today in Nigeria essentially is about insecurity, which you mentioned. And I think that for the ordinary Nigerians, even surviving, even feeding has become a problem. And these are the issues that the ADC is taking into consideration.
You said the ADC is working on that, Mr. Ologbondiyan, but some would say that Nigerians are really in between the devil and the deep blue sea, and there really isn't any more credible choice to pick from come 2027. Because if you look at the characters and the ADC, it seems like the ADC is made up of those who have left either the PDP or the APC into the ADC. And some of them worked for the last administration, and the last administration was unable to solve a number of the problems that we're still battling with as a nation. And so why should we trust these individuals who are positioning for power with power when they have had the opportunity before but were unable to solve the country's problems?
Well, Bukola, I don't think that there is any form of government, and this is my own candid prayer, that will come after this administration, after the 11 years of this administration, that can take us to a worse situation than this. I don't want to believe so, and I don't pray it happens. It happens. Because when you say that, oh, it is the old people that are coming, it's people who have been this, people who have been that. In the political arena, there are no saints. There's nowhere you can bring saints into this place. So it is also the same people. And even the people we are talking about, that, oh, I mean, the people in the APC, they were also somewhere. If you look at the APC, the conglomeration of APC today, I can clearly say that 70 to 80% of them are people who come from other political parties. So on the analogy of the deep blue sea and the devil that you are proposing, I think that the nation can still make the best out of the situation in which we have found ourselves. By first and foremost saying that, look, we have seen what APC has done in 11 years or in 12 years. And we need now to clinically review the system in a manner that we can bring in a new government. I hold to this view. I believe in it, because no matter how you look at it, no matter where you are coming from, no matter what you want to say, I think that the APC government in the last 11 or 12 years has done worse than even the PDP. So why are people clamoring today that, oh, let those who run government under the PDP affairs be brought back? Why are they saying so? Konjo Iweala and others. Why are they clamoring for them? Because the economy of that time, no matter how we look at it today, was far better than what we are witnessing. And I don't need anybody to come and show me bookish data. I want us to talk about what is the practical situation, what is the reality, how many of Nigerians today can get their health system. As we speak now, I don't know about you guys, but in the last 6 or 7 months, I have attended more burials than I've attended weddings, because people are dropping, because they do not have the right medication, because they do not have the right diagnosis. And on account of that, they can't fend for their health situation. So we must face the reality, we must face the practicality of what we can achieve and what we can attain. Thank you very much, Bukola.
As we begin to wind down, I'm still trying to stay, I'm trying as much as possible to stay away from policy issues because I think it's early in the day, perhaps, to talk about policy. But I want to stay with the politics as far as the few weeks that is left for the decision to be made. So from what we see that there are two movements in the party, the Konkosia movement, the Obedient movement, and then Atiku has brought his own as well. When it comes to the region, religion, and all of the permutation looking around. But what do you think the ADC can do to be able to maybe psychologically walk through the minds of people, which I feel the APC has done in terms of the movement of these governors and all these legislators who feel like it's a done deal in that sense? But you guys argue that governors may move doesn't mean the people will move. But what are you doing practically to ensure that you get the buy-in of the grassroots? Because that's where the real game happens, the grassroots politics and grassroots politicians. What are you doing exactly to get the buy-in of the people at the grassroots to give APC a run for their money?
Thank you very much, Geoffrey. If you follow the trajectory of the ADC, since this new leadership under Senator David Mark, you will discover that every action of the party is organic. We were in Kano a few days back, and you could see the tumultuous crowd that came out along the streets and at the venue. This is organic. It's not something that, oh, you go and pay people, or government that will influence the people who are in the public service that if you don't attend, will sack you. And I can say that in every area of this country today, that when it concerns ADC, look at the registration, online registration that we are doing. When it concerns the ADC, people on their own are bringing out their funds to achieve purpose. People by themselves, not forced by any individual, are raising money on their own. And when it gets to that level, it's a reaction to the sitting government. And if you recall, in 2013, 2014, it got to that level with Nigerians. That because they believe that they don't want to go further with this, they decided by themselves to say, we'll fund ourselves, we'll fund our ways. And what happened at the end of the day? Despite the huge resources available to government, Nigerians expressed themselves and they delivered the candidate that they wanted. We are on the same trajectory, Geoffrey. Don't listen to what these guys are saying on the other side. You can pull 36 governors. Are you sure that the 36 governors are with you? That's the question. But Geoffrey, permit me not to sit down here and divulge the strategy of the ADC going ahead to 2027. Thank you very much.
Well, Mr. Ologbondiyan, we must wind down now. I'm just curious. Would you be supporting the candidature of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar or that of Mr. Peter Obi or Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso should this go to the primaries?
Well, Buki, you try. You're waiting, you know if you get by direct question. You want to go by the sides and get it. But I want to give you an assurance, that the party is working in line with the amendment to the Electoral Act to pursue consensus or direct primary. I know direct primary is like you are holding an election for every Nigerian. So that way, Nigerians can elect their president ahead of even the real election itself. But by the way, I want to give you assurance, and through you assure Nigerians, that ADC will be cohesive to the end. Thank you very much.
Well, Mr. Ologbondiyan, well played, as they say. But we wonder, we've been seeing your colleagues dance. Mr. Kenneth Okonkwo, for example, this is him dancing for Mr. Atiku Abubakar. So, Mr. Ologbondiyan, I'm sure you've seen that dance video. A lot of people are wondering, when is your dancing going to happen as well?
Dancing? Well, first and foremost, I don't think I'm a good dancer. So, and I know that not many people have seen me dance. Not many people have seen me dance. So, I will have different approaches to issues. There are those who want to talk. There are those who want to read. There are those who want to dance. Whatever approach that we deploy, the end game is what is important. Let's achieve purpose. And I believe ADC has come to put the citizens first. Not to go and be borrowing money running into 155 trillion. And they're saying that you are building infrastructure or that you are for budget deficit, you are paying budget deficits and all that. Whereas the closest place to us here in Abuja now, as we are speaking now, is Lugbe. Go and check the road infrastructure of Lugbe, which is under the nose of the government and Mr. President.
Well, the dancing sure gets us talking. It makes us wonder why, if the motivation for dancing has begun to fly around. But don't answer that one, Mr. Ologbondiyan. We must anchor at this point, and thank you very much for coming on the show. Mr. Kola Ologbondiyan is a member of the ADC and former National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party. Thank you for coming on the Morning Brief, and we look forward to another engagement.
Thank you very much, Bukola. Thank you. Thank you, Geoffrey.
And so we'll take a moment now. When we return, it will be time to scrutinize yet another borrowing spree, or if you like, a loan request by the administration, amongst other economic issues. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Welcome back. Let's talk about the economy. We're joined on the program by Professor of Economics, Lagos Business School. Professor Bongadi joins us virtually. Prof, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
All right, Prof, I would like you to help Nigerians understand what is playing out. Because, you know, the average Nigerian, as soon as they hear government is borrowing, they're already pissed off. It doesn't matter the justification the government wants to give. But I know that for a fact, Muhammadu Buhari had left a debt of close to 19 trillion as at then. Of course, the devaluation of the Naira took it higher, but I think Bola Tinubu, the president, has borrowed in the region of between 6 to 8 billion, at least what he sought to borrow, maybe not totally released. So we're looking at in the region of about $150-something billion. So help us understand this new borrowing. I want to start with the borrowing before the budget itself, because that's what concerns a lot of Nigerians. I know there was a $21 billion borrowing plan for a space of about 2 to 3 years or 5 years, as it may, in different denominations and currencies. Is this 6 billion part of that, or this was something that was requested a long time ago and is getting to fruition now? What exactly is going on?
Thank you very much. I think this is a very crucial issue, and a lot of Nigerians are concerned. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, please, Prof.
Yeah, so first off, I think one of the things that, one of the reforms that the government has done is, the fiscal reform. Part of it is to really maintain consistency with this medium-term expenditure and, of course, borrowing framework. So I believe that the new borrowing is still is within the threshold that has been earlier identified and earmarked. So let's give the government the benefit of the doubt. Of course, you know that when it comes to these kind of things, you only rely on data from the same government. So we do not have such independent, data or verification ability in this country. So you always rely on the official statistics. So let's give them the benefit of the doubt. But I have reasons to believe that it is still within the 21 billion that been earmarked earlier for, to fund the budget, which of course critically undersold.
Prof, for people who are trying to wrap their brain around the windfall we're getting, the excitement, last August, the president said, look, We've met our target in terms of non-oil sector. And he's even said, look, governors don't have a reason to borrow. The governors, some have even confirmed that they've not borrowed any money. So it looks like we're good to a large extent in terms of the macroeconomics, in terms of how much money we're getting, even though our production is still lower than we expected. So help us reconcile for Nigerians who are trying to process it. On one hand, we're having windfall, even if it's not immediate money coming, but monies are coming in. Number two, they removed all the wage bills from all the subsidies they were paying, so that should accrue some funds. So why exactly are you still borrowing? Even though borrowing is part of the budget, because I know that 15 trillion has been earmarked for the 2026 as well as 2025 budget fiscal plan, which is about a quarter of the amount.
Why are we still borrowing? I think that is the question when we have the oil windfall. I think to answer that question, it will be necessary to look at our, oil exposure, what we have done with our oil over the years. As it is, I hope my information is correct. I do not think that Nigeria has much headroom when it comes to the oil volume that it can put to the market. It seems that most of that has already been, offloaded because oil is never sold on the spot market. So if we are seeing oil price going above $100 today, that does not mean that the federal government is in a position to really take advantage of that. That what they can get out of that would be, maybe a little bit of their own, part of the profit oil, which is quite insignificant. So much of the oil has already been, forwarded, sold in the forward market. So oil market does not operate on the spot basis. And I think that is something that we need to realize. And I'm sure that that is what government has been struggling with. The reason why it is necessary and why they are fighting very hard to increase the volume of production, which we have seen to be increasing over time. So that is something that we need to put into context in order to make sense of this, why borrowing when we have this oil windfall. So except that we have opportunity to interrogate the data again to know what really accrues to government in terms of the volume of production, based on the sharing formula, then that is when we can really state this is how much the government is able to make given this windfall. But if government is borrowing, that tells you that they do not really have access to or do not take in this leverage. It is not available to them.
So there's been a lot of debate around this new round of borrowing, and it just comes a few days or 1 week plus after this government went to the UK. I hope you can hear me. After this government went to the UK,
yeah, I can hear you,
and got a £700+ million facility for port development, which a lot of people didn't realize, it's not free money, certainly. It's a facility, right, a loan in some sense. So this coming right now is quite worrisome, but I want us to break it down, talk about the worst that could happen with these borrowings, and perhaps the best that could happen with the borrowings. Yes, the National Assembly says at least 40% of the borrowings must be for capital project. But there's a challenge now of sustainability. How sure are we that we'll be able to repay these loans? How sure are we that these loans will be used the right way? So for you as an economist, what is the worst that could happen with these rounds of borrowings and this huge debt burden? And perhaps what is the best that could happen as well?
Well, I think to answer that question, we start from our a full picture of the fiscal situation. And I would like to appeal to metrics. That does not mean that I do not understand the disparity or discrepancy between macro and the micro. I've always been talking about this macro stability against micro fragility that we are currently in. Now, when we look at the metrics, especially debt to GDP, Nigeria is 36.2. I think that's the latest. We're not up to 40. I think the baseline should be about 50, 40, thereabout. Where it now becomes difficult to really, manage the fiscal reality. But as it is, I think the government believes that it still has that headroom, the bandwidth to still borrow. And you know that borrowing, especially when you have your macro indicators in the right places. I mean, if you're looking at the portfolio investors, the international creditors, they are looking at your external reserve. So they're looking at your balance of payment and all that. And as it is right now, those things are strongly in the favor of government. And I think that is what motivating them and encouraging them to go borrowing, because that's easier to do than to wait for tax collection, because you have to really put in the work to increase the tax base, and then before you can extract value from that. So the easier way out is to really go to the international market and to do what the government did with the government of the United Kingdom the other day. So those are easier ways to raise money for government. And when government knows that it has, when you look at public trust theory, okay, government is also a rational agent, just like individuals. So they are looking at how do they maximize their returns at the least, cost. So for government, I think their maximization problem is to borrow as much as they can, given that their fiscal situation, the metrics seem to speak in their favor. You have external reserve, which is hitting 50 billion, so which gives everybody, even the creditors, that confidence that this government has the ability to repay. So if you have ability, if you are judged to have that ability to repay, everybody wants to give you money. And truly, if you are rational, you want to borrow. You want to collect that money. So, and of course, they will not care about the interest, because interest is carried over time, maybe paid over the next 5 years, 10 years. Of course, by then that government will be out of power, so it's not a problem. So you can see that everything speaks in the direction of more borrowing, that you can't stop it, because given the rationality at play here, so I think the rational choice is for the government to borrow. But then let's bring it down to the translation of that borrowing to real sector development or poverty alleviation. You will agree with me that the level of poverty we are currently confronting in Nigeria is at levels we've never seen in our history. So what I can say is that this government seems to be supervising the highest level of poverty in our country's history. And that's, again, simply because the macro seems to be performing well. They think they are doing well with the macroeconomic and fiscal reforms, which seem to be yielding results at that front. But given the time lag, and again, with the collapse of infrastructure, it's beginning to appear that that time lag will keep retracting, keep extending, before we begin to see the cascade to the micro level, to the ordinary man or woman in the streets. So this is the challenge that we have. Currently, the misery of the population is exacerbating. And that is why people are not so happy, when they hear the government is borrowing more money. I mean, what can you say to that when there is no light and productivity is at all-time low, right? Even though, yes, like I said, at the macro fronts, we seem to be doing well. Most of that driven on the back of development in the oil sector, but the oil sector is still underperforming. And then the mass of the citizens are still, feeling, reeling from the aftermath of the removal of the subsidy, and the harmonization of the exchange rate. Yet again, we are seeing, given the deregulation of the oil and gas market, the international dynamics are now, all over the place. And there seems to be no cushion, and nobody is speaking to that. So these are some of the things that are raising all this anxiety in the populace, especially with respect to this new round of borrowing.
And you know, Prof, you strike right at the heart of the conversation. What seems to be uppermost in the minds of Nigerians about where really, the borrowing is going to, if indeed government is justifying its need to borrow. Taxes are being increased, and there's still no power, and infrastructure development in critical areas is still evidently lacking. But before I continue, I'd like to appeal to you perhaps to turn down the volume of the device that is in the background somewhere where you are. It seems to be a bit better now, but we hope that it improves even further. I'd like you to speak to whether this borrowing request now by the administration is in line with Fiscal Responsibility Act, which is the document that really should be guiding government's appropriation. I believe a portion of that act speaks strictly to borrowing should align with capital expenditure, but we're seeing that this round of borrowing is also to fund the judiciary, according to reports. And then the fiscal responsibility also stipulates somewhere that it should not exceed 3% of GDP. So this borrowing from last year, we also saw that the government borrowed around $215 million or thereabout last year. There was a borrowing request presented to the National Assembly last year. With this now added to it, is it in line with fiscal responsibility guidelines?
Now, if you do the computations, then 3%, that's what the Act stipulates. But, if we do the computation, is it more than that, or are we still within the threshold? I think that's something that we need to do. I'm not able to do that right now. I'm sorry. But, the core issue here, just as I stated earlier, is that when the macro indicators are in the right places, it is very difficult to really discourage or to dissuade any government from borrowing. I think that is from public choice theory. Government rationality, when they know that they can borrow and get away with it, is that they will tend to borrow more, and there is nothing you can say about it. Now, about the application or deployment of the borrowed funds, I think that's where we need to pay attention. Is judiciary intervention or whatever our priority at this stage? I would tell you categorically no. Why am I saying that? Some of us deal with our market facing when it comes to foreign investors. I deal with some partners who are funding projects all over Africa. Despite all the arguments, defenses we've mounted for the case of Nigeria, most of them do not want to touch anything Nigeria because, yes, we are seeing this improvement in macro indicators. But when they are looking at an investor is, foreign direct investment, not portfolio bargain hunter. They are looking at the long-term profitability or viability of investment that will depend on demand from, sector demand. That is your manufacturing or producing something that you will need to sell to people. So you are looking at the purchasing power of those individuals. You're looking at the markets, the robustness of the market. Now, they don't see all of these things, given the level of purchasing power in Nigeria. Per capita income is the lowest in compared to Africa, and then the cost of doing business is extremely high. The logistics cost in Nigeria is perhaps among the highest in Africa as well. So when they think about these things, they do not think that businesses in Nigeria are worthy to be funded. Right. So that is why they prefer to go to other African countries. So this is a very serious matter here.
Yes, my apologies, Prof.
I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. You just need to wind down, Prof. I just want to throw in a quick one, if you can answer in 30 seconds, because we're totally out of time. If you look at the framing of Section 16 of the Constitution, it just safeguards the state against allowing wealth to be in the hands of a group of people or some persons. I know it may not be totally symmetric between the poor and the rich, but something that everybody can survive on. But it seems to me that this adoption of capitalist neoliberal approach to managing our economy, as great as it sounds, giving us a good dashboard at the macroeconomic level, seem always to have that disconnect at the compounding effect at the micro level. Why do we always have the inability to blend in both? If you can answer it in 30 seconds, Prof.
I think you're seeing it big businesses, and that's what neoliberal capital, so it's about laissez-faireism, let them do. So you do not inhibit individuals. But then when you have the kind of economic demography, if I may say, that we have, where you have just few people who are concentrated in the hands of people. So when you further liberalize, so it means that only the few who are able to capture all the gains. Now, that requires, a dedicated government policy, and then enforcement of those policies, to drive the gains of that growth to the rest of the population. When you don't have that, when you don't have institutions, because it's one thing to liberalize the economy, but your institutions are able to really superintend the affairs of such liberalized markets to ensure that you have good distribution of the benefits of growth. So when you have such lacking, then you will have high levels of inequality. I think that's what I'll say to that.
Prof, thank you so much. We'll always need your intervention. As in the coming days, when this electioneering starts and the numbers will be put on the table, we'll need persons like you to help us break it down as to who what has done what and who can do what. Professor Bongoda Adi is a professor of economics at the Lagos Business School. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll bring you more on the program. Stay with us.
Let's talk about the gig economy. Yeah, I know it sounds like gigabyte, but that's not what it means, all right? It's something entirely different, and it's where we're at right now. By 2032, that economy will be worth about over $1 trillion. And I must say that Nigeria is in prime position to play big in the gig economy. And Africa's leading ecosystem enabler, Co-Creation Hub, is doing some great work in that sector. So we thought today, let's bring you some profitable conversation. You could thank us later. We're joined on the program this morning by CCHub's Managing Director, Ojoma Ochai. She's right here with us in our Lagos studio. Good morning, Ojoma.
Good morning.
It's good to have you on the show. I mean, gig economy is a big deal now, particularly for young people. It's not like they have commitment issues, but just want to do what they want to do, get value, add value, and move on to some other things. So they're able to be flexible, they have good work-life balance and all of that. And CCHub is trying to help people pivot into that sector with infrastructure as well. Because what people have challenges with is you need that laptop on the one hand, you need that internet, that guzzler, and then you need power. That has been the challenge for a lot of people. But you're trying to do something different to enable people participate in the gig economy. Tell us about Gateway.
Absolutely. So the Gateway program is trying to put 340,000 young people into gig work by 2030. And it's based on the stats that you've already started to quote, this idea that the gig economy will be worth almost 2 trillion actually by 2032, 1.85 trillion. But also there's a shortage of gig workers to the tune of about 85 million across the world. And also the opportunity for gig work is that you can do gig work from wherever you are, as long as you have the things that you mentioned, power, internet, and a couple other things which we're trying to fix through the Gateway program. So the Gateway program is looking at demand for the gig work talent on one hand, and then the plentiful supply of human beings and young people that we have in Nigeria, and saying, how can we build a bridge between this demand that we know exists and the supply that we have by way of young people? And so that's what Gateway is really trying to do. And it covers all of the aspects that you've talked about, because at CCHub, we like to take an ecosystem approach. And what that just means is that there's hardly any problem that is caused by one factor. there's multiple factors that contribute to most problems, including the issues that young people have with gig work. So first of all, there's perception issues in the sense that gig work is not real work. And a lot of people think, oh, it's a side hustle, it's something I do when I have a bit of free time. But because of the numbers, because of the growth of the economy, we know that it is work, it is proper work. And if you read any reports, whether it's from the World Economic Forum or from the business analysis around the world, we know that the world of work is changing to more freelance, more flexible work. And so we're saying, and then AI, again, is changing the landscape. And so we're saying, how can we tap into that opportunity? By changing perceptions first and foremost. I think there's also perceptions, not just with the young people, with the people around them. Parents, you want your child to leave the house every day at 9 o'clock and go to the office because that's what they're used to. Similarly, law enforcement and communities. So if you have a neighbor that's a young person, they don't leave the house, but they're driving a car, they're a Yahoo person. And so all of those perceptions need to change. So that's one thing. Another thing is the skills issue, because with artificial intelligence, we see that the skills that are needed to do this digital work are also changing. Sure. But there's also issues around perceptions of Nigeria, because if you're a young person sat in Nigeria and you're trying to register on an international gig work platform, when they see Nigeria,
it's a red flag.
It's a red flag. They treat you some kind of way. But there's also issues around financial services for gig workers. And I'll give you a simple example. Pensions. We all have 9 to 5s. Our pensions are 12 equal installments over the course of a year. That's not how gig work works, because you earn money when you earn money. You don't earn it 12 times a year. But the pension system is designed to assume that we all earn 12 salary monthly. And so the financial services are not designed. Similarly, when you're testing somebody's credit worthiness, often, if you have a monthly salary, you're rated more highly or scored highly than somebody who has a less predictable pattern, even if you earn exactly the same amount of money. So these are all issues that the Gateway program is trying to tackle, essentially. But the big goal is to connect the demand for gig work and freelance talent in the digital era to the supply that we could have in Nigeria, and fixing all the issues around the ecosystem to make it sustainable, such that beyond our 340,000, if the ecosystem works, it works, right, for everybody, whether you're in the program or not. If there are financial services for gig workers, it works for everybody. If we're no longer blacklisted on these international gig work platforms, it works for everybody, and so on and so forth. So that's the big vision.
So what structure are you putting in place to tackle these real problems that shape the gig work industry? And you've highlighted quite a number of them that are important. The fact that there are no regular earners like those who are in a structured system, and the perception image. So what structure are you putting in place to tackle that?
Absolutely. So gig work has a number of components that try and tackle each of these things. There's a big skills component, of course, to help two categories of people. One is there's some people that already have these skills, because there are lots of empowerment programs that already happen, whether it's at state level, at national level. And so they have the skills, digital marketing or graphic design or video production or UI UX. For those people, their skills pathway takes them straight into understanding the gig work platforms, how gig work works, how to navigate your way on these platforms, but also financial management, because if you think about it, being a freelancer is like having a solo enterprise. So you have to have the financial skills, the business management skills. So the guys on the growth pathway, we call it, go straight into that skills cadre. But the people who don't have the skills already, we also have a skills package through partnerships with skills providers. And the skills are all online, asynchronous, and so you can do it in your own time. But we've partnered with 20 hubs across the 10 states in which we're going to be delivering the program, so that people who don't have laptops, who don't have internet, who don't have power, can go and still access those online courses from the hubs that we're working with in the 10 states. So there's a skills piece. Then there's a financial services piece where we're working with financial services providers, pension providers, insurance providers, credit providers, to, on one hand, design products that fit the gig work patterns, but on the other hand, to provide credit, because when you finish learning and it comes to time to work, if you haven't got a laptop or you haven't got a dongle or you don't have power, you need to buy those things before you start earning or early in your journey as you start earning. So part of what the program will do is work with financial service providers to provide credit for them to be able to purchase these devices. And there are different schemes. Some will be pay to own, and so there will be different models with the credit provision. Then there's the perceptions piece. We're doing a lot of, we will do a lot of public advocacy targeted at the different categories, communities, law enforcement, young people themselves, to start to change the mindset about gig work. But we're also doing a lot of targeted engagement with gig work platforms to try and understand, fine, can we break down the issues that you have? And we know what some of those issues are, right? They're trying to protect against fraud. KYC processes are quite difficult. Dispute resolution issues are quite difficult. And so through the project, we'll figure out a mechanism through which, at a granular level, we can solve those things for the platforms. If it's KYC, we can assure you that everybody who's in the gig work program, we've used a number of mechanisms from geolocation to national identity to verify who they are. We can become mediators in the dispute resolution process. So all of these things to say to the gig work platforms, what mechanisms do you need to be in place to assure you that this person on your platform is legitimate and is going through this program?
So they can work with you.
Exactly. Absolutely. With us as a kind of intermediary, the program as an intermediary. So those are some of the things we're doing. Ultimately, we want to demonstrate, because 340,000 people, it's a big number, but not really. When you think about, one, the opportunity, that's 85 million, but also the population of young people that we have in Nigeria. So really what we want to do through gig work is to demonstrate what's possible and to fix these structural barriers so that in the next couple of years, whether you're in the gig work, the Gateway program or not, if the system works, it works. And you can benefit from the infrastructural and the ecosystem change that the program is trying to achieve.
Interesting. I think what you said in general is about dignity, the ability to say, what do you do for a living? And I can say, I'm a gig worker. We've been talking gig work, meaning independent, flexible, not 9 to 5 necessarily. My concern here is the level of demand in terms of, maybe you help us highlight, I know you said it in passing, highlight the spectrum of the level of demand for gig workers. I mean, the specific skills, because these young people, they are fast, they want to get things done quickly, and they love fast money. And if that fast money is legitimate, they want to go for that. So those who trade would like to trade gold than even currency pairs, if you know what I mean. So this looks like it aligns with the 3MTT program of the Ministry of is it Communication now? And Digital
Communication
Economy.
and Digital Economy.
So maybe help us understand what are the ones in high demand, the skills.
Absolutely. So when you dimension that 85 million gap, the 4 skills that we're focusing on in Gateway are among the top 10 in demand jobs, according to the World Economic Forum. One is digital marketing, one is graphic design, one is video production, and one is UI UX design. We've done a forecast, a 10-year forecast, because of AI, to look at how will AI affect these sectors. And the forecast that we've done, we wrote a mathematical model and did some machine learning analysis because we're CCHub and that's what we do. And what we find is that the growth trajectory for 3 or 4 of these jobs over the 10 years will continue to rise. UI UX will start to plateau based on our mathematical model by 2028. It will start to plateau. And so what we're going to do as part of the program is to make sure that people learn the skills, like digital marketing and so on, but they also develop the skills to learn new skills. Because we all need that skill today, because whether we like it or not, AI is changing our jobs. And so there's no guarantee, really. We don't know what the jobs will be in 2030. We don't know what the jobs will be in 2029. So we all need to develop the skill of learning how to learn new skills. And that's what part of what Gateway will help people do. So that even as the skills landscape, absolutely, even as the skills landscape changes, they adapt. And we don't train people in digital marketing, and by 2029, it's shifting, and they say, oh, sorry, Gateway, train us again. they have the skills to learn independently. And so that's the way that we're tackling that. But the top skills are
digital marketing,
graphic design, UI,
video.
UX, and video production.
I see media has 50%, no, 75% of this, which gives me joy. Digital marketing, graphic design, you put UI, UX design just to give video production. You know? But it speaks to where we're at right now. A natural question that should follow is, how do I sign up? And by I mean I as in and I as in other people watching you out there. Because I think the opportunities are big. Young people can talk about how sometimes the odds seem to be against them, but they sometimes don't see the fact that the odds are actually for them when it comes to the gig economy. So how do we now sign up for this?
So people can sign up on our website. Everything is online to sign up on gateway.cchub.africa. So gateway is GATEWAY.
Thank you for spelling that out.
CCHub.africa. And one thing I must mention is that all of the training on the program is free. But beyond that, we actually pay for a number of things for people who are eligible. Transport stipends for people who have to go to hubs. Access to the hubs that they go to is also free. But we're also focused on women and young women, because at the moment, only 17% of people in the tech sector are women. And so we're trying to close the gap in female participation in the tech industry. But we know that young women, part of the reason why they don't take advantage of these programs is because they have children and they have household responsibilities. So the program also pays for childcare. And so young women who are eligible will get stipends to pay for their childcare. And all of this, the whole program is only possible because of the support of the MasterCard Foundation, who are our partner on the program. So it's not only free, some people who are eligible will also get financial support to enable them participate.
Just to reiterate.
I hope there's no, sorry, Kyle, I hope there's no age discrimination, because all these gig adverts and AI work discriminate against those of us who are over 40.
You need to say
no comments.
Last I checked, you were 21 now.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, well, it is targeted. In the first instance, we're targeting young people that are 18 to 35 in the first instance.
Oh.
And the reason for that is, if you look at the employment statistics, young people are inordinately affected when it comes to unemployment or underemployment in Nigeria. So the way that we're trying to close the gender gap is also the way that we're trying to close the youth unemployment gap. And so that's why we have that age limit. But we'll see. If we have data, one of the things we're really focused on at CCHub this year is evidence. If we have data that says there is a big proportion of people over the age limit who want to participate, I'm sure it's something that we can consider.
So that's the website right there for everyone to see, gateway.cchub.africa. That's where to sign up. And just to reiterate, it's for everyone to be a part of, between 18 and 35.
Absolutely, in 10 states.
In 10 states now.
Yeah,
okay.
And I'll say the states very quickly. Lagos, Ogun, Oyo, Kaduna, Kano, Abuja, which is the federal capital.
Delta,
Edo,
Rivers, and Enugu.
Look at you. Thank you so much.
We're part of this gig economy together. But it's been a pleasure having this conversation. I hope for a lot of young people, they embrace this, because I know they have the energy, they have that drive. They want to be a part of something, contribute to providing value and getting value. So this is an opportunity for you. Sign up for this Gateway project, which I should say is a gateway to the gig economy and to greater things. Jamal Chai, it's been a pleasure having you. I know this is a conversation we'll have time and again just to track the development and see just how well we're doing. Thank you for your time. It's good to see you on this side. Keep the great work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
So, Jamal Chai, CCHub's Managing Director. It's been a pleasure having her on the Morning Brief talking about the Gateway project. So go ahead, sign up for it. Gateway.cchub.africa. And that's where we draw the curtains on the show this morning. To everyone watching, we say have a great day. I'm Kaido Kikile.
And remember, opportunity meets preparation, so go for the Co-Creation Hub Gateway Gig Program. I am Bukola Koka.
Sunrise Daily is up next at the top of the hour. Join them, and right here, we'll be back tomorrow, God willing. I'm Jeffrey Brown.